So does this sound familiar? Okay, your numbers are down, your engagement has fallen off, your leads have slowed, your momentum has dried up, you have lost your zone, right? You're no longer operating in what we know as your zone of genius, right? And you may have heard about this concept. It's definitely not something new. I didn't make it up, but I wanted to touch on it because it has been a topic that I've come across lately in speaking with a lot of business owners over the past few weeks. And it's really strange how, ideas and concepts like this come circling back and somehow become the center of a lot of your conversations. But this is one, all right? So the other night, I did have a conversation with a struggling business owner, right? We were on the phone and they had a problem. And it's something identified and it's very, very real and it's very, very common. But they were lost, right? They had gotten to the point where they didn't really know the direction of their brand or business anymore, right? They didn't know where their business was heading or really what they're offering to the market, what their value was. And for this reason, they woke up and found themselves in a situation of zero growth, zero momentum. And that is definitely not a place that you want to be in your business. So I asked them a few simple questions. One, what does your business offer? What is it that you do exactly? And of course, they talked in circles and ended up providing kind of like this very generic and weak response. And they knew it. I knew it. They knew it. You could tell. The second question I asked them is, who exactly are you helping? Who are you obligated to? And again, the answer was very unconvincing, right? It was very, very broad, and they kind of were just telling me what they thought I wanted to hear. But it was clear that they had lost sight of their ideal audience, their ideal prospect. They kind of have been chasing people, just kind of grabbing whatever they could. They were optimized for revenue versus optimized for profit. And the third question I asked them is, okay, so what's the outcome of your offer? How does that positively impact the people that you work with? And guess what? By this time, they realized that they didn't have the answer, and they weren't going to try to fake it out, and they weren't going to try to give me what they thought I wanted to hear, and they just replied, I really don't know anymore. There you go, right? They admitted it. They had lost their way. They had lost their zone of genius, right? And some people say, and this guy, the same thing, when I brought it up, he said, well, what's the zone of genius? What is that exactly? I mean, it's so random. What is that? Well, that's a place where you operate with like 100% clarity on what you do best and how you help others, right? Who you're obligated to, right? How you actually benefit those people. What's the single greatest talent that you have internally that once you put into the marketplace and put in front of somebody or implement into their business, you can actually change the trajectory of their business. You can change their lives. You can change the way that they go throughout their day, right? So understanding that zone of genius will provide you with a central point of focus in your business, a single point that you can extract most or any of strategic directions that you need to go in order to build your company, right? So from this, we can develop pretty much all the required actions and any of the avenues that allow you to build what would be a highly approachable, desirable, and remarkable offer or business within your landscape. But then the next question is, okay, so how do you find it? How do you actually get back to your zone of genius? We've gone so far off path. How do you get back there? Well, it's really kind of easier than you think. And just like most things, we overthink it, right? I love simplicity. I deal in simplicity, right? But I overthink pretty much everything, right? People I talk to pretty much overthink everything. It's just how we're wired. We just overthink it. So really, let's come back and find kind of that cross point of self-awareness. Let's kind of reflect, right? Let's kind of get to the point where we can believe again in the moments of success that we can create within our landscape. And we can do that by really focusing on three main questions to ask ourselves. So I typically will have people write this out. I'll write it out myself, and it's a good reminder to kind of write this down. But one, think back to a moment in your current or past business and identify that moment when success came to you without stress, when it came to you without worry or pain, when your business was just firing, you were doing whatever you were doing it well, and it was just working. This could be a single win that you experienced in your business, and it really maybe brought nothing but energy and enjoyment to you, right? So it could just be a moment that brought that level of enjoyment to you, right? So describe that moment in the greatest detail, from the very start to the very end. Right? What was the issue that it solved? What were you doing? What were the steps and process to solve that problem? And what was the feeling you had when it was over? What was the feeling you had when you got that result? Right? And who did that result serve, and how did it make them feel? Right? If you were affecting someone else, how did they feel after you were done? Number two, analyze what you just wrote down. Right? Dig through it and really extract the core offer that you provided. Dig through and extract the real pain that your client or customer or addressable market felt and how your offer actually solved that pain. Really, really get detailed on that. Extract the joy, the relief, right? The power that the result brought to their lives. And if you can extract those core points, then you can achieve clarity on what it is that you should be focused on, right? That's your zone of genius. But it's not enough really to actually just identify this, right? It means nothing if you can't harness it and utilize this newfound clarity that you have. So the third part of this is not really a question. It's actually a command. It's actually something that you now need to implement. You need to be able to dedicate yourself to that zone, right? It might be impossible to imagine, but you must dedicate yourself to that zone, that one thing that you found, that clarity that you found, that moment of enjoyment. You have to dedicate yourself to getting back there and dedicate yourself to focusing on that, right? You have to be willing to shed kind of the unnecessary, right? And what you think is useful in order to dedicate yourself to operating within that zone, right? And I deal with that a lot. It's saying like we might have to make some painful choices. We might have to make some decisions that seem painful in order to get us to where we need to go, but it's necessary, right? It's necessary because that clarity is so important. And that's why so many people are lost in their business, right? Because they're going in so many different directions, right? They're going in so many areas that are based on kind of these false directions, these false tunnels that they've kind of found themselves into that's outside of the zone, right? So we need to be able to dedicate ourselves to getting back there and operating within that zone, right? So this is not something that you can achieve overnight. All right, it's not something that can be done in a single moment, right? It's something that you have to kind of work on. You really do have to sit down, you have to think about it, and you have to kind of step into it. You can't just change your life like that overnight. I'm sorry, you can't, right? But the zone of genius is kind of like our natural ability. Okay, so you will get back there. Your body will remember. Your mind will remember. It's muscle memory. You will get back to those moments where you're able to provide absolute power and absolute value to the market. Your body and your mind and the market will remember. Okay, so be self-aware, have the ability to self-assess in order to self-activate, and that's going to be key in your journey. That's going to be key into you finding your way back to that zone. So run through this exercise a couple times. Take your time, be detailed, right? You may find that you're on the right path, or you may realize that you've strayed pretty far from your natural abilities, okay? But this will help you discover the answers to those questions. And, ask yourself the questions. How is deviating from your path impacting your business, right? How has it impacted your business? You have to understand what damage you've done in order for you to actually move back a few steps and remove that damage, right? So now you need to know, what steps am I going to take to get back on point, right? And then third, how dedicated are you to making those changes, right? If you're not really dedicated, then you can't expect the outcome. So that's it. Run through, ask yourself those two questions and implement the third, and you will gain a level of clarity. You'll gain more clarity than you have right now. I guarantee it. And if you need help, doing it, if you want to talk through it, if you want me to help you, then let me know. I'm always open, and I will talk to you soon. Let me know how it goes.